Hi there, it's Rita, and today I want to show you how to make these really fun I Spy bags. These are awesome for when you want to give them to kids, just a tactile thing. They're so fun. Kids love them. Adults love them. And these are super fun to make, super easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. So first of all, what we're going to need is you're going to need fabric. So I've got this non-directional fabric here. You can choose directional fabric if you like. Just be a little bit wary of when you do some cutting for the front of the bag. Then you're going to need the trinkets. You need all the trinkets inside. And this is my big bag. I have collected these over the years. I've raided my house. I have gone to the dollar store. Every time I go to the dollar store, I see something that I think was small that'll be fun to put in an I Spy bag. I grab it and then I just throw it in the bag. So this bag is probably about 2 years old. And then finally, what you're going to need is some of this vinyl. And you just get this from the fabric store and it has a paper backing on it. They come in different weights and I just buy the lightest weight. You don't need the heavy weight. The lightest weight is actually easier to sew with. So that's just what I get. And you're just going to need like a 3.5 inch square. So honestly, you do not need a lot. You can just probably get like the minimum cut. Okay. These are one of my favorite things to make for craft fairs. Kids and adults love looking for the hidden items inside. And parents love them because it gets the kids off the electronics and engaged in something tactile. They are perfect for taking to restaurants or events where you need kids to be quieter and stay seated, but they can also interact with you and not ignore you like they do when they're focused on their electronics. We all know that glazed glare that the kids give us when they're on their electronics or how they ignore you. So we don't want that. Give them something like this. So you can either make these with or without the items listed inside. And when I say that, I mean this right here. This is how I list them inside. This is an extra step that I do. I'll talk about it later. Personally, I like to put this on here because then I can find it makes more interesting for the child when they have a specific task to look for. For instance, on here, I always put 20 items in here, and you can say, okay, look for number 4. And then they have to search in here and move the rice around or the contents, whatever you decide to put in here to find what item 4 is. Also fun for if you have more than one child that has them, you can say, okay, both of you need to find number 1, whatever number 1 is on the back of these. And then whoever finds it first is the winner. And number 1 is always different. They're never the same. They're never identical. So it's always fun that way to do. So yeah. Oh, you can also use poly pellets on the inside. So I made this one with those little plastic clear poly pellets that you can get. And normally I use rice, but I ran out of some rice and I had poly pellets at home. So I did that. And so this is the difference of what they look like. So here we go. And so let's get into making some right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric and we are going to cut it. So not very much fabric is needed. This is like a fat quarter, which is 18 inches by 22 inches. You don't even need anywhere near this much. Scrap fabric is just as fine, is just as well. And because what you want to do is you want to have a 6.5, it's 6 inches square. So you need to cut out a 6.5 inch square. So I happen to have a 6.5 inch ruler, which makes it super handy. And I'm just going to cut out in the corner here, just measure this up and literally just cut around this here. So this is going to be the back. So voila, it's already done the back. Now we're going to do the front, and the front here. So this is where I mean about directional fabric. So if you have directional fabric with, like, say, a smaller print, you might want to make it so it's all going the same way. So you need 2 strips, 2 longer strips and 2 shorter strips. So I like to cut my strips a little bit wider. So I'm going to cut my strips 2 inches wide. And then I'm going to, when I sew it onto the vinyl, then I'm just going to trim it down to the 6.5 inch square. Just because sometimes I don't sew exactly evenly. So I'm just going to cut let's see here, some 2-inch squares, or rectangles, I should say. Actually, you know what? Before I use this, I'm going to use this other ruler here. So I have my 12 by 6 ruler. So I'm actually going to do that. And I will fold this fabric so I can just cut more at once. Like that. Measure that up. And I'm just going to cut one more strap. Okay. So, and then I'm going to need to cut my vinyl. So I'm just going to roughly cut this, and then I will trim it because this is such a big piece. So I am just going to just do it like this. And I know the paper backing is on here because vinyl is clear, right? And sometimes it's hard to see. So that's why they have the paper backing on here. And so I'm just going to keep it on there. And I'm going to cut out, let's move this over here. Getting a little messy. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm going to cut it out a 3.5 inch square. So I'm just going to go like this. And of course, you can do this more neatly at home if you have your mat out in a bigger workspace. Just use the whole length and use your ruler to cut out a 3.5 inch strip and then just subcut it into 3.5 inch squares. But for this purpose, I am just going to do it this way here. So this, actually, you know what? Now I'm going to take this paper off because now I can't. Okay, so if you can see on my mat here, you can kind of see it. So I've got it lined up here and I've got it lined up here. So now through my ruler, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on the camera, but I can just barely see it through here. I am going to cut a 3.5 inch square. There we go. Just like that, and like that, and whoops, sticks to my fingers. So here is your square. Let's see, Hannah, do you see it better through here? So this is the vinyl square. That's going to be the window. That's the window of this right here. So what you're going to do now, and I've done pretty much all my cutting. I don't really need this here right now. I am going to take one of these strips and I'm going to place, let's see here. I'm going to put this right side up and I'm going to place the edge of the vinyl against the edge of the vinyl here against the edge of the fabric. I'm going to put the vinyl down against the feed dogs because the feed dogs are going to help move that vinyl along. So that's what I'm going to do right here. All we want to do is stitch it down. Just because the vinyl is clear, just make sure that you haven't lost it along here on your stitching line. Okay, and where's my bossy? I almost did lose it. I'm just going to show you here. So here, right here is my vinyl piece. It's right along this 5 line right here. So I'm going to hold that in place. Put this right on top. And just hold it with my stiletto. Oh, come on. This is seriously the finniest. What am I trying to say? Finickiest. Is that a word? Part of the whole process. And you're just going to stitch along there. Right to the end. Okay. So now you've got it stitched like this, and you're going to be able to put it back. Just going to trim off these threads here. And this is kind of where I eyeball it. I don't really, measure too much. I just kind of cut it. I just sort of cut it along here this way, like that. And like that. And then I'm going to take my iron and super carefully, I am not going to touch the vinyl at all. I'm just going to like pull I have my iron resting on here, and I'm going to pull the vinyl just at the very tip there. I don't know if you saw that, but just at the very tip right here, I'm pulling this and I'm just bringing the iron right to the very edge here because I don't want to touch the vinyl, but I do want to sort of press it back a little bit. And then I'm going to do, you know what, this is the longer piece, so I'm going to do the other extra long piece. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do right sides together. Let's do this way here. And you know what, I don't have one, but you know what would be good is actually, I just thought of this, is one of those little wonder clips. You can stick a little clip on here to make sure. You never want to stick a pin in vinyl because it will not heal again. It won't close up again because vinyl, it'll just stay pierced. So once you sew vinyl, that's it. There's going to be a hole in there. So let's see here. Do this right against the edge. And this one went better. Okay, so then again, I'm just gonna cut it here like this. Oh, yeah, those are my fabric scissors. And then I will iron it once more. Again, being very careful not to get it on the actual plastic. There you go. Okay, so now we just have these strips here, and these ones are long enough to fit there. So this is what I mean by directional. So you want to make sure that maybe when you have it here that it's all going the same way. I mean, you don't have to, but some people really like it that way. I would be picky and I would want it that way. So let's see here. So now I'm just going to, again, right sides together. I am going to stitch this once more. See how fast it's coming along? It's super quick. Okay, and we'll trim this off like that. And I will press this one same exact way, except for now when it's fabric on fabric, I can obviously go over on the seam line. There we go. And one more last one to do. Actually, we'll do it this way here. That one's cut straighter. Okay. As I was doing this, I was just thinking, I had said to you to put the vinyl against the feed dogs, but as you saw, I just did it this way here. So it was just self-conscious or unconscious self-habit that I did there, and it seemed to go fine. So I guess that's okay. Sometimes you just do things automatically and you just don't even really pay attention. And then all of a sudden it works. Okay, so here is the front. If you want, and you don't have to, I don't do this, but if you want, you could edge stitch this out here along the top. I don't do that. As you can see on these ones, I haven't done that, and they came out just fine. So now this is a little bit bigger than this square. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to cut this down to the 6.5 inch square. So let me just get, oops, my cutting mat here again, and my 6.5 inch ruler. And it looks actually pretty good. It doesn't look too bad. So, but there's still some messy edges. So I'm just going to clean those up and make those all even. I love my rotary mat. I love my rotary mat that turns, let me tell you. Okay, so as you can see, didn't need very much at all. And we'll put this back here. Okay, so now we are going to put these right sides out. First of all, what I should say is these little things that I write on the back, I should get into a little more detail about those. So I use printer fabric, and this is the printer fabric that I personally use. It's something like this, and it is just a sheet of paper. You can buy this at your local fabric store. It is a sew-on piece, so it's a special kind of fabric. I'm not sure exactly, cotton of some sort. And then it has a paper backing on it, so it can feed through your printer. And what I just do is I open up a Word document on my computer, and I make these little rectangles, and I figure out what I'm going to put in each bag. So I have bags like this, little bags, and because I make them like so many at a time, I usually make like 18, 20 at a time. I will just start putting stuff in a bag, make sure I have 20 different items. And then I'll go on my printer and I will be like, okay, what have I got in here? I've got a penny. I've got a blue starfish. I've got a paper clip. I've got a pink pom-pom, a ladybug, orange clothespin, things like that. And I will list those down, and I will do that. And then I will print those all out, and then I will take it off the paper backing. And at this point is when at this point in making this is when I would put it on the back. If I'm not going to do that, just skip that step entirely. You can do that as well. And then you would just keep going. But I have some here. So this is, if I have one like that, then I will put it in the bag so I know it matches with this one. And I'm going to do that right now. So then I will take this out. This list has 20 items in it. All of these 20 items are in here. So I'm going to take this on the back, just eyeball the center of it, and I'm just going to stitch around it. If you have a little business and you're selling these and you have little tags, you could stick a little tag like right in between here, right in between, and that would be, you know, advertising for your business as well. So that would be good. Just stitch around all corners here. Oops, one more. And I'm going to back stitch here a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to cut this little thread off here. And so then, yeah, you would just have it like this. So then I'm going to take these two together now, and I am going to sew around all four sides. But I'm going to leave a little opening on the bottom, just a little one, so I can turn it inside out. That's what I want to do. I need to turn it inside out. So I got to leave a little opening. And also because the vinyl that I used is the thinnest vinyl, it'll make it easier to turn as well. So again, I just eyeball it. I'm not big on measuring if I don't have to. So I'm just going to, and when I usually do it in between these two seam lines. It just makes it easier. So I leave the opening in between those two seam lines. And always back stitch at your opening and closing, because you're stressing that point when you turn it inside out, and you don't want to rip it. So, or have it come undone. So I'm just going to back stitch a bit here. I also like to back stitch at my corners a little bit as well. And I like to do that because, again, it's another sort of stress point when you turn it inside out and you're sort of poking the corners out. It's a bit of a stress point as well. So I like to back stitch at those corners. And again, I'm just sewing 1/4 inch. You don't need to have a big seam allowance here. Just a small 1/4 inch seam allowance was fine. And coming down here. And the last little bit. Okay, so now what I've done is I have stitched all the way around this here. And now I need to trim the corners because I'm going to trim them so they turn out nice and sharp and crisp. You always want crisp corners if you can get them. So this one here. Okay. Just throw this. I'm not throwing it on the floor. There's a garbage there. Okay. I'm just going to turn it inside out. And it goes super quick and easy. So get it turned out most of the way with your fingers. And then you can find a stiletto, or I just use my tweezers sometimes. Just get those corners out a little bit there. And here. Oops. And here, so like that. Now it looks like that. See? We're almost done. We're almost done, folks. So I'm just going to give it a quick little press. And what I'm going to do is the opening that I left, I'm going to press in. Whoops. I'm going to press in the seam allowance just a little bit, and that's going to make it easier for me to stitch closed. So I don't know if you can see it here, but I'm going to just like that. So just like that, I'm going to leave it open or fold it over, and I'm going to just squeeze it and press it. And then it will make it easier for me to stitch closed. Now, what you're going to do is you need 1.5 cups of rice, or 1.5 cups of poly pellets, or whatever it is that you want to put in there. So I have my rice here. And, oh, but you know what? You might be saying, how am I not going to spill all this rice in here? And I did try a funnel, like one of those kitchen funnels. I just found it was too small, like the holes and unless you have a bigger one. I didn't have a bigger one. So I'm going to make one, and I'm going to show you actually how to make one because it's actually really easy. I'll just actually do that quickly now. And so you just get a regular piece of paper, and you want to, like if you were to fold it into a square like that, but you would just literally roll it, and you just keep rolling it. So roll it like that, and then just sort of release, hold it at one end so it stays tighter, and try to make it bigger with the other end, just like that. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. And then you can just tape it. So get to my fancy tape here. So just tape the end. And then what I do is I take my paper scissors. Don't take your fabric scissors. And I just snip off the end, and see how big that is? That will let that rice get in there really quick. And your trinkets as well. So let me find that opening here. So I just stick it in the opening like this, and I have it like that. And then I measure out 1.5 cups. So I have a 1/2 cup measuring cup here. I'm just going to fill this up once. Just dump it in there like that. And then I'll do one more. Oops. Just careful not to get rice everywhere. And then just before the last one, I'm going to put these trinkets in there. So I can just pour them in like this. Oops. So I dropped one. and oops, there it is. It fell on the floor. Because now everyone's going to look for the butterfly if I don't put it in there, right? They're going to be like, where is that butterfly? So, and then I do that. And I sort of mix it up a little bit. And then I'm going to add, oh, I left a sequin out. Look at this, the tiniest little sequins. When I say tiny, I mean tiny. Because you want to find stuff. And then I'm going to put the last half a cup of rice in. I'm making a mess here. So hopefully you're not as messy as me. And then you just basically make sure it's all at the end here. You want to now stitch this closed really tight. Do it as close to the edge as you can. Oops. So use a small stitch. Oops, this is hanging off because there we go. Okay. And oops. You want to be careful. You don't want to hit any rice because you could break a needle. So there we go. Okay, and I'm just going to trim this off here. And you have your I Spy rice bag. How cool is that? You just made one. You can go ahead and make so many. These are so quick and so fun to make. So just to recap, what you need is one square, 6.5 inches for the back, which is the back. Then you're going to need a 3.5 inch square of vinyl. And then you need to have 2 inches, or you could even cut 2 1/4, 2.5 inches wide strips, because after you sew them to the vinyl, you're going to trim them down to meet the size of the back, the 6.5 inch. So that's it. That's it. And I'll just show you some of the different items that I have here in my little bag of items, just so you can get an idea of what different things you could have, because there are so many. There are so many. And I have a little plate here. I'm just going to dump some out so you can see. So let's see. So I have, let's see here. So right here, you can see I've got pom-poms. I have a little heart right there. I have a whole bunch of these, what are they called? They're like confetti. That's the word I'm looking for, like confetti. So there's leaves, butterflies. I even have found ones with letters on it. I have little little clothespins. But yes, I do actually have safety pins as well. Little tiny safety pins. I have rubber bands. There's little pony beads. What else have we got in here? Paper clips. I found little ladybugs at the store. Literally anything. There's screws in here. I have found screws, nuts, like the nuts on the end of the screw. These little beads that have like letters on them. So many buttons I have in here. I found these little like diamonds, little diamonds in the store. Oh, and of course, my favorite is the red bean and a popcorn kernel. Got to remember those. Those are classic to have. Macaroni noodle as well, to have that. But yeah, just like whatever your imagination is, as far like there's a star button, all these little things, but you're looking for little things that can get lost in the rice. You don't want like the bigger things. So you really want them to search and move around the rice and try to find them that way. So like I said, just whenever you're at the dollar store, check out the craft aisle. That's usually where I find all of my stuff in there. Little sequin I have in there as well. So some people are like, I can't find the sequin, but trust me, it's in there. I've put it in there. And yeah, so when I'm selling these at the craft fair. Literally, the kids come to pick it up off the table. The adults are looking at it and they just love them because, again, it's not electronics. Your kids are so focused on electronics these days, and we all want them to interact and have a conversation and things like that. So that's why I make these. And actually, you know what? They're actually, now that I think about it, they're probably going to be pretty good for like people, the elderly in care homes and things like that as well. They probably would enjoy something like this, something tactile to look at and to find and things like that. So don't forget about those guys as well. Thanks for watching. And if you really like this segment and you want to follow us some more, do click that like button and be sure to watch for more videos to come. Thanks for watching. Happy sewing.